Hey guys, Mike here. So boy, what a day in the market for grabbing liquidity, let me tell you. And remember, the market will use any excuse to move down, right, before moving back up. Obviously, we just had Microsoft report, Meta. They're going through the roof right now. Of course, futures are going sky high right now because of those two. You have some other going green. You have some others. Not so much, okay? So we're going to go into that. We obviously had jobs number out this morning. Better than expected. Shocker there. The other one was GDP, which we're going to go over another number that the president wants, rates cut. He needs to say, Jerome, explain this one to me. Please look at this one and tell me what you're going to do here, right? So, of course, we're going to go over what the Fed said. Shocker, they didn't cut rates, okay? But he did say something about September, and that's what the market said. Let me take this opportunity to go really quickly, okay? And then, of course, we just round tripped, which we'll talk about. And then we'll talk about some stocks to watch out for that, could be getting ready to take off again. Again, tomorrow is month end. And so, you get some tomfoolery sometimes during month end. And plus, we're obviously heading into August and stuff. And we got some big earnings tomorrow as well. But when you look at GDP, we had talked about this one in detail when I said don't worry about this number. I wouldn't even pay attention to GDP, honest, at this point in time because of the way they're calculating this crap. But, you saw the minus 0.5 last quarter, people freaking out, oh my God, which I showed you because of the imports. Now it says 3% GDP. I would say this right here. I saw this today and I thought, wow, this is a pretty good way to look at this. Here is U.S. final sales minus to private purchasers, minus like government contracts, expenses. And you can clearly see going down now 3 straight quarters, right? Another way to look at this is there's another chart where it has GDP on it. And you can see GDP pops up at 3%. And then, of course, the number we just talked about goes down again. And so to me, if you're going to measure the accuracy of how the economy is looking, it isn't GDP, because we saw how gold imports and other imports and exports can throw that stuff way off. That number to me makes more sense if you're looking, try to make the argument that the economy is weakening, right? I mean, if you want rate cuts, you go, well, by here. So maybe Trump can hold that up to Jerome Powell and just see what he says, right? Now, remember, we did have 2 Fed presidents dissent. They wanted rate cuts, which we haven't seen. And so that was interesting. They'll probably come out in the next couple of days doing interviews saying why. We don't have a meeting in August, so we know that's not going to happen. But here's what Jerome Powell said when he was asked about September, and we'll look how the market took it.
Just to follow up, by coming months, does that include the possibility you'll be getting essentially 2 rounds of jobs and inflation data between now and the September meeting? Is that potentially adequate to make a decision to lower rates at that point?
So you're right. We do have, this is an intermeeting period when we'll get 2 full rounds of employment and inflation data before the time of the September meeting. We have made no decisions about September. We don't do that in advance. We'll be taking that information into consideration and all the other information we get as we make our decision at the September meeting.
And I mean, immediately, surge inputs, drop in the S&P, okay, and it came down quick, about 1%, very quickly. And I remember we hadn't had a move like that in a while. It's just been it was kind of moving up and down today, but that was a nice move down. There was a certain reason it moved down. There's a certain reason it bounced, which I will show you. This is the SPX here, and so that's what happened right there. You can see though, we drew this out, I believe yesterday, and so what's some liquidity to be grabbed, right? Here's that daily fair value gap, mitigated about half of it, but when you look on the SPY, it came down and it mitigated the entire fair value gap, okay, and then bounced from there, and it had a very nice recovery. And then, of course, in after hours, futures are going crazy and stuff, so they're moving up nicely, and we'll talk about why. What I really want to see, though, is if we come down either tonight, tomorrow, you never know, what's going to hold on these earnings calls and things like that. And again, it's all about liquidity. So I'm looking at these, inverse fair value gaps right here, and you look at Monday, right? There's Monday's high. There's Tuesday's high. So again, it's a lower high each day, right, as we come through this. So, and we just took out what would have been during the day, the high for the day. And so I want to see if we come up down overnight and try to retrace back down into this before, if the plan is to move up tomorrow. And again, it's end of month, so you see some kind of weird stuff going on. But if it tries to retrace back down to a discount window, mitigate some of this liquidity has been left behind right here once all the earnings calls are done and everything just kind of settles out and everything. That's what I want to see what happens there, or if that happens and we get along off that. And you can see like Carvana's going crazy. It's actually up 15% now as I'm actually looking at this. And so that one's up. You can see Microsoft up right there very nicely. You got Meta It's going to the moon right there very nicely. Some stocks that did not go to the moon, and again, it's all about the four horsemen, which I'll talk about in a second. ARM, nope. There's another semiconductor that bit the dust, Qualcomm, all right, same space, bit the dust again. And so it's all about the four horsemen, which are AMD, Nvidia, Avgo, Taiwan Semiconductors. I'm thinking about replacing that with Microsoft. When it comes, I mean by the four horsemen, it's the AI boom, right? Where's the money really flowing to? What are the stocks that are, one, generating money off the AI boom? Okay, that's another one. Are really trying and investing a lot, which would be Microsoft, right? Versus Apple and some others that are not. And I'll talk about one of those stocks where you'll get to see this big difference in Saturday's video. By the way, put your question for Saturday's video in the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and knock that out because my family and I are going to take our last summer vacation, 3.5 day weekend. And so I'm going to have that out for you, but I'll still put Thursday's video out there for you, Saturday, and then I'll be back in time to put Sunday's video to set up next week as well. For those who are old enough, you remember this. For those who are young enough, because somebody asked me, like, what's this four horsemen you're talking about? I actually got it from this right here.
It's summed up like this. We are wrestling's elite. We are the four horsemen. Woo!
So that's where I'm getting the four horsemen from. In this case, you're not old enough to remember that. I don't blame you, okay? Nvidia, obviously the Ric Flair of the group right here. I mean, it continues to grind higher, set a new high today as well. Even when the market started to go down, this one actually stayed up pretty dang well. And so that one continues to grind. And I always start putting places like, where can we get liquidity grabs? Because when you get in August, September, there's going to be some very quick liquidity grabs down. It's going to happen. It always does. And so I'm just looking at areas where there's gaps, levels, imbalances, stuff like that. It's important to watch to see, when we break, if we end up hitting that imbalance, or we're going to ricochet back up, that kind of stuff, like you see on the SPY right now. And so, you can see certain levels here on this one to watch out for when we come down. You get to AMD. This is probably the second leader of the four horsemen right here. Been doing really well. Didn't set a new high today. But again, it held that line we talked about around like that 174 area right there. It came down, tested it, and bounced. Right below is definitely more liquidity if it wants it. And that's not a bad thing. I actually prefer that when I'm in a stock, for it to keep coming down like it has been doing, and just go ahead and taking the liquidity slowly but surely, and then moving right back up. That's how it works, going level to level, okay? And this is just a gigantic move up. Again, earnings next week on this one. So this one, and of course, unlike Nvidia, it has resistance, right? It has not set new all-time highs, okay? It's nowhere near a market cap. Again, it depends on their chips are new, so we're going to see on those earnings like how much they're actually selling, and so we'll get to see what the CEO says about that. But again, right there, if we come down, I just want to see if we're going to bounce if we come down there. And a lot of people on the R side saying, hey, it's overbought. I'm like, yep, sure is. Been overbought for a while. This is the weekly right here, but guess what? You look in the past, when it gets on these kind of runs, these pumps, it can go higher. I don't think people would question it as much, and neither would I, if we weren't going into August and September, which is like the two worst months of the year. And so that's kind of, got everybody on edge right there, and rightfully so. Tesla just took advantage of the sell-off to come down in what? This imbalance we marked out last night, okay? Took about 50 to 70% of that right there. Bounced back up at a nice bounce, closed right back above the white line, which we're looking at. If it's funny because when Nvidia usually has a good day, what happens? The next day, it usually trades off with Tesla. And so I'm not going to be surprised if Tesla starts to move back up. And I want to see if it's going to break this level, because there's actually a gap on the shorter time frame, I believe it's on like the 1 hour, right above that blue line right there, around 330, 35, I believe it is. So if it can break that right there, there actually is a gap right there to complete on the lower time frames. And so that's what I'm looking for. To the downside, you can clearly see I've got it all marked out right there of where it can hit and stuff. And so, but in the long run, the big picture, what's it doing is just wedging. And again, I want to see what happens when we come to this trend line. Does it break back out? Kind of like almost like a mini bull flag going on here with it. I want to see if that's what plays out on Tesla tomorrow. Now, looking over at him, just an update. We talked about this thing breaking out, filling the rest of the gap, heading back up to that next level, which it hits. Okay, big day, over 10% for HIMS. Even when the market sold off, HIMS is like, whatever. Hold my beer, here we go. High flyer, moving right here. So we can take out the rest of that box. That gap is filled. I'm definitely going to see if we come back down, take some liquidity, and if things keep pushing, that next level is going to be 73.09 up there is what you're looking for. But again, before you get there, look at 67. Okay, so we took this high right here, and then when we took the high, that's when we kind of stalled out. So don't be surprised if we take 67, maybe stall out, and then head to 73 if this thing keeps going. We'll see what happens in pre-market. If we get maybe something like this where it comes out, takes the high, and then does this, that will be even better. Kind of like what we saw on a trade desk before it took off going higher. So Rocket Lab, another one to watch out for. It keeps banging against this trend line right here. Again, took out a lot of liquidity from below, which is good. So let's see if this one, if it breaks above there, you know how this one moves. Most likely it's going to try to head up to 50 and then 54. That trend line has definitely been the resistance, right? We marked that a long time ago, and I said, wow, I wonder what happens against this trend line. Well, now we know. So that trend line is going to become even more important in the future. And again, these are just these names. They're super risky. You're definitely coming in at a time where it's going to be August, September, where these are going to take a bath, okay? When's that going to happen? That's what we got to find out. But I can look at it and tell you it's already in the discount. That's what it's doing. It's bouncing off these fibs right here. It's coming up. It's mitigating that daily fair value gap. 2 bars over, okay? And so we get to see if it's going to break through or we're going to come down and take more liquidity first, all right? Now, buckle up for more earnings in the morning. You got CVS Health, Roblox, AbbVie, Norwegian Cruise Lines, Cameco, Cigna, MasterCard right here. We'll see how Cigna does because Humana actually did bounce today. Remember, it's taking its 2020 low, which I'll talk more about in Saturday's video. Then you got Apple, Amazon, Coinbase, Reddit, Riot, Cloudflare, Roku. Whoo, that's going to be a busy one. And then, of course, on Thursday, we'll have core PCE price index month over month, employment cost index quarter over quarter, unemployment claims, personal income, personal spending, Chicago PMI. So that'll be fun. So buckle up for another fun one, guys. It's definitely, I enjoy all these earnings. It's one of my favorite weeks. So, get some movement in the market, so to speak. So anyway, hope you guys got some out of it. Please hit that like, subscribe. And if you did, don't forget to put your questions in the comments for Saturday's video. Think about signing up the membership. Less than McDonald's combo at $7.99. It's everything you get with it. Just hit the first link in the description right there. Cancel at any time. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.